In this video, you will see how to arrive at the cost per unit under absorption costing and ABC. So this is the question. You are making two products, Rubik's Cube and toy car. The budgeted production in units for Rubik's Cube is 200 and for toy car it is 100. And machine hours per unit for Rubik's Cube, it is 3 hours, and for toy car, it is 2 hours per unit. So what is the total budgeted machine hours? It is 200 into 3, which gives you 600 hours in total. And for toy car, it is 100 into 2, which gives a total budgeted machine hours of 200 hours. Now, the details of fixed overheads, only two fixed overheads have been given in the question. One is machinery maintenance cost, $1,000, and the second one is factory rent, again, $1,000, totaling to $2,000. Calculate overhead cost per unit under absorption costing. Now, in this question, you would have noticed that I'm giving very small figures. This is just to make your calculation simple. The primary objective is to make you understand how the problem has to be done. So if you work with smaller numbers, you will be able to apply the same logic with bigger numbers. Now, under absorption costing, we take the total fixed overheads and divide it between the two products based on either the machine hours or the labor hours. We use labor hours if it's a labor-intensive company. In this case, it is machines which make the product, so we will be using machine hours. Now, which ratio should we take for dividing? Is it the machine hours per unit, or is it the total machine hours? Think. Now, this fixed overheads total is for the total machine hours, right? It is not for one unit. So you will have to divide the $2,000 based on the total machine hours. So first, let's copy the overheads that is to be divided. We have $2,000 as overheads, so I've copied it into our table. Now we have to divide it based on the budgeted machine hours ratio, that is 600 is to 200. So we will make a note of the same. The basis of division is the total machine hours. For Rubik's Cube, the machine hours is 600. And for toy car, the machine hours is 200. So what is the total hours? Total hours is 800. That is 600 plus 200. Now, in order to divide the $2,000 in the ratio of 600 is to 200, how do we do the calculation? For Rubik's Cube, it will be $2,000, that is the total, divided by 800 multiplied by 600. What is 600? The machine hours related to Rubik's Cube. And how do we do the calculation for toy car? It is $2,000 divided by the total machine hours, that is 800, multiplied by 200, correct? So that is how you divide it in the ratio of 600 is to 200. So we will do the first step, that is $2,000 divided by 800. Okay, and then we will multiply with 600 for the Rubik's Cube and 200 for the toy car. Now, what is $2,000 divided by 800? That is the total fixed overheads divided by the total machine hours. It is nothing but the overhead absorption rate per hour. So we will make a note of that. So overhead absorption rate per hour is the total fixed overheads divided by the total machine hours. That is 2,000 divided by 800, which gives an amount of $2.5 per machine hour. Now we will allocate it to each product. So the allocation for one machine hour, the overheads is $2.5, and Rubik's Cube takes 600 machine hours. So for Rubik's Cube, it is 2.5 multiplied by 600. Now coming to toy car, each machine hour, the overhead amount is $2.5, and toy car takes 200 machine hours. So the amount that is to be allocated to the toy car is 2.5 multiplied by 200. So let's do the calculation. So the total overheads relating to Rubik's Cube is 1,500. That is 2.5 into 600. And for the toy car, it is $500. That is 2.5 into 200. Now, what did they ask us to find? They asked us to find the overhead cost per unit. This is the total overheads. So in order to find out the overhead cost per unit, what is to be done? We have to divide it by the number of units. So that's the next step. So overhead cost per unit is $1,500 is the total, divided by number of units, that is 200. We get an amount of $7.5 per unit for the Rubik's Cube. Now coming to the toy car. It is $500, that's the total fixed overheads, divided by the number of units, that is 100. We get an amount of $5 per unit. So that's the first part of the question. We have completed the overhead cost per unit. Now going to activity-based costing, or ABC. Now, one additional information that has been given in the question for tackling the ABC part is the square feet. And why is square feet given? Because the cost driver of the factory rent is the square feet. The details of fixed overheads. Machinery maintenance cost is the first cost pool, and factory rent is the second cost pool. And what did we study about the cost drivers? For machinery maintenance cost, the cost driver is the machine hours, and for factory rent, the cost driver is the square feet. So we will make a note of the cost pools. Machinery maintenance cost $1,000 and factory rent again $1,000. Next, we will note down the cost driver relating to each cost pool. So the cost driver relating to machinery maintenance is machine hours, and for factory rent, it is the square feet. Now, the machine hours relating to Rubik's Cube is 600 hours, and for toy car, it is 200 hours, giving a total of 800 hours. So here, what are we going to do? We are going to divide $1,000 in the ratio of 600 is to 200. So what is the first step? We calculate the overhead absorption rate, just like we did in absorption costing. So it is $1,000 divided by 800. So we get an amount of $1.25 per hour. Now coming to factory rent. The square feet occupied by the Rubik's Cube is 200 square feet. And for the toy car, it is 400 square feet, giving a total of 600 square feet. That is 200 plus 400. So just like we did for machinery maintenance, again, we are supposed to calculate the overhead absorption rate. So it is $1,000 divided by 600 square feet. So what is the overheads per square feet? So it is 1,000 divided by 600, which gives an amount of $1.67 per square feet. So what did we just see? Now in absorption costing, we had just one OAR, but in ABC, we will have multiple OARs depending on the number of cost pools. So here we have two cost pools, that is machinery maintenance and factory rents, and hence we have got two OARs, that is one relating to the machinery maintenance cost and the one relating to the factory rent. Now we will allocate it to each product. So first comes the machinery maintenance. For 1 hour, the machinery maintenance cost is $1.25. So for 600 hours, what is the amount? The amount comes to $750. That is 1.25 multiplied by 600. Now coming to the machinery maintenance cost for toy car. For 1 hour, it is 1.25. So for 200 hours, it is 250. That is 1.25 multiplied by 200 hours. Now coming to the next cost pool, that is the factory rent. Factory rent, what is the cost per square feet? For 1 square feet, it is $1.67. So for 200 square feet, what is the amount? It is $333. That is 1.67 multiplied by 200 square feet. Now coming to the toy car. For 1 square feet, it is 1.67. And for 400 square feet, what would be the amount? It is 667. That is $1.67 multiplied by 400 square feet. So now we have allocated both the cost pools among the two products on a logical basis. So the total overheads relating to the Rubik's Cube is 750 plus 333, giving an amount of $1,083. And as for toy car, it is $250 plus $667, giving an amount of $917. So now we have got the total overhead cost. And how do you find out the overhead cost per unit? Simple. You have to just divide it by the number of units. The number of units of Rubik's Cube is 200 and that of the toy car is 100. So next, overhead cost per unit is 1083 divided by 200 for Rubik's Cube, giving an amount of $5.4 per unit. And for toy car, it is $917 divided by 100 units, giving an amount of $9 per unit. Now we will have a quick look at the overhead cost that is arrived at under the absorption costing and the activity-based costing. So these were the figures that we obtained under absorption costing, and these are the figures that we obtained under activity-based costing. If you see here, under absorption costing, the Rubik's Cube overhead cost was 7.5. It has been reduced to 5.4 under ABC. And as for toy car, the overhead cost per unit was only $5 under absorption costing. It increased to $9 per unit under activity-based costing. And activity-based costing is always more accurate than absorption costing. They have got separate cost drivers for dividing each cost pool, which is more logical. Now we will analyze the reason as to why this is happening. Why is this happening? Now, the reason is the total overheads of $2,000 has been divided in the ratio of machine hours, that is 600:200 or 3:1 for the absorption costing method. So a bigger chunk is going for the Rubik's Cube and a smaller chunk is going for the toy car, that is 3/4. How did I get 3/4? Because it is 3:1. So 3/4 or 75% is going for Rubik's Cube and only 1/4 or 25% is going for the toy car. Now coming to the activity-based costing. In activity-based costing, we had two cost pools. Okay. So regarding the first cost pool, that is the machinery maintenance, the overhead was $1,000, which was divided in the ratio of 600:200, that is 3:1. That is similar to the absorption costing method. So there we do not have a difference. And what about the second cost pool? The second cost pool is the factory rent. Let's check out the ratio in which that has been divided. So the factory rent of $1,000 has been divided in the ratio of the square feet, that is 200:400 or 1:2. That is 1/3. That is because it is 1:2. Only 1/3 share is going for Rubik's Cube, or only 33% is going for the Rubik's Cube, and 2/3 or 67% is going for the toy car. This is the reason for the difference. The reason for the difference is because the factory rent has been allocated on the basis of the square feet ratio and not on the basis of the machine hours ratio. So because of that, a higher share, that is 67%, is going for the toy car instead of 25% that was taken under absorption costing. Now we will go to the second question, wherein we will be calculating the total cost per unit of both the products under absorption costing and activity-based costing. Now, what are the two things that we have to add to the overhead cost per unit to arrive at the total cost? Direct material cost and direct labor cost. So let's get to the next question. So using the overhead cost calculated earlier, calculate total cost per unit under absorption costing and activity-based costing. So they have given the details of the direct material cost per unit and also the direct labor cost per unit. So here the calculation is very simple. Take the overhead cost that has been calculated under absorption costing and activity-based costing, and you just add the direct material cost and the direct labor cost to it. You get the total cost per unit. So let's make a note of the overhead cost that we have calculated earlier. Absorption costing and ABC. You have the two products, Rubik's Cube and toy car. And the overhead cost per unit that had been found earlier under absorption costing was $7.5 and $5 for the two products. And for ABC, it was $5.4 and $9. I have just copied those figures that we had already calculated. Now all that we have to do is add the direct material cost and the direct labor cost to the overhead cost. So we will just copy this table into the absorption costing schedule. So we have the direct material cost and the direct labor cost copied. Likewise, we will copy it for ABC also, because direct material cost and direct labor cost remains same for both. So I have copied that too. Now all that we have to do is add it. So what is the total cost? For Rubik's Cube under absorption costing, it is 2 plus 1 plus 7.5, giving an amount of $10.5. For toy car under absorption costing, it is 3 plus 2 plus 5, giving an amount of $10. And as for ABC, the Rubik's Cube total cost amounts to 2 plus 1 plus 5.4, giving an amount of $8.4. And for toy car, it's 3 plus 2 plus 9, giving an amount of $14. So if you see here, the difference between the cost under absorption costing and activity-based costing is solely because of the overhead cost, because the direct material cost and the direct labor cost remains the same for both. So we are done with this question. Now here we have come across just two cost pools, but in the examination, other cost pools may also be given. So let's take a quick look at the cost pools and the respective cost drivers. So that was a quick view of the cost pools and the cost drivers. We will need those when we tackle the exam kit question. So that will be done in the next session. So if you would like to receive notification for the same, do click the subscribe and the bell icon. And the list of topics that have already been covered are given in the description box below. Do check that out before leaving. So thank you all and meet you in the next video.